Africa's history is rooted in the ingenuity of its ancestors. It is inscribed in the intricate Adinkra symbols that predated Roman letters and the magnificent pyramids found in the Nubian deserts. It is embedded in the infinite fractals, symbiotically unifying communities with the nature that sustains them, and coded in the ancient multiplication techniques of Ethiopia that today fuel the hum of computer systems around the world.
Coming back, howl in the wind, I'm coming back. Burr in your heel, I'm coming back. I'm coming back. If I could write this shit in fire, I would write this shit in fire. This ain't poetry, it's rage unmuted, a verb, a means, an end. This is my body. This is a sacrifice. This is an offering. This is Sankofa, and I'm carrying fire in my knapsack. Tell them I'm Patrice Lumumba, Stephen Biko, Fred Hampton, Fannie Lou Hamer. Tell them they have been born again in me. Tell them been born again in me. Tell them been born again in me. Tell them.
These long-established innovations have been encoded into the DNA of Africans through the song and folk tales of griots, whose narratives have transcended spiritual and terrestrial realms. Contemporary artists encode these oral traditions in works which draw on technological advances that contend futurist lenses with various modes of art. The artistic movement known as Afrofuturism is a cultural aesthetic that combines elements of science fiction, Afrocentrism, and African spirituality to forward combative representations of futures enlightened by African and Afro-diasporic socio-historical experiences. Within this artistic genre, African feminist theory, which privileges African women's intellectual consciousness, has inspired the works of artists that encode ancestral knowledge onto imagined futures. In Wanuri Kahiu's short science fiction film Pumzi, Afrofuturist aesthetics are employed to create a visually striking, barren landscape that highlight the significance of the relationship between land, maternal love, and life in the survival and revival of a nation. In a futuristic world plagued by water scarcity, the film constructs an argument about the scarcity of love between the land and its people by creating a visually evocative environmental narrative that stages the dreams and resourceful ingenuity of a female character as the antidote to the sterility of technologically driven consumption. By planting alluring figures and stylized creations within scenic African landscapes, Afrofuturist artworks contest hegemonized notions of a binary between nature and culture and propose a constitutive vision of beauty. These works shift conceptual substructures of a nature-culture binary by transplanting indigeneity into galactic landscapes, such as in Jacques Njeri's photographic series featuring Messiahs in space. These conceptual substructures are further destabilized with the fusion of the female body with nature in Ngendo's short film Yellow Fever, where projections of both the landscape and historical representations of African people onto the female body canvas create a critical and combative archive of the legacy of colonialism on the African woman imaginary. Many of these artists, like Letitia Kai, Isaiah Wakoli, and Jacques Njeri, choose to use online platforms such as Instagram to exhibit their art. By curating creative intellectual spaces on the internet, these artists create alternative online galleries that challenge the exclusivity created by elitist art institutions. In her Instagram photos, Letitia Kai uses Afro-Black hair aesthetics as the subject of her art to reimagine traditional hair practices from African communities prior to colonialization and envision them through an innovative, futuristic lens. Her work reinvents the vision of sculpting as an artistic practice. Ndidi Emefiele's vivid acrylic paintings of female portraits reconstitute the practice of portraiture. The characters of the Emefiele paintings are thematically linked by their wide heads and large eyewear. Culturally symbolic of the intellect, the head and eyewear in the paintings portrait the female subject onto a stylized intellectual canvas. They transplant the domestic sphere onto a theoretical frame in which the female intellect deconstructs and redefines the very notions of femininity and beauty that manufacture the domestic sphere. The photographs of Omar Victor Diop also use the digital lens to reconstitute the practice of portraiture. In his short photographic film, The Legions of Timus, Diop's interplay with photonegatives creates stunning visuals of two coexisting but materially distinct worlds. The camera lens frames the imaginary of the spiritual world as not only coexisting alongside, but also emanating within the tangible world. The photographic film transcends the conventional practice of portraying the physical body. It captures the spiritual force that constitutes the corporeal being. In so doing, the film subverts patriarchal discourse on divinity by supplanting a theology wherein the God consciousness emanates from one's own life force. By reinventing the function of the camera lens, Diop's art engages with an afrofuturist lens that reconstitutes not only the practice of portraiture, but also the conceptual underpinnings of the blessed. Blessed are they who call on the deceased, for their words reverberate with healing energy. Blessed are the dreamers, for they shall dip into the collective consciousness of the earth. Blessed are they who seek connections through remembrance, for they shall be heard and guided with each step into the future. Blessed are the visionaries, for they shall unite the physical and the spiritual. Blessed are the ancestors, for their memories shall resonate within the DNA of the living. Blessed are the revolutionaries, for they shall liberate the voices of past, present, and future.